Okay, call this meeting to order. 7:35 p.m. All of you, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance as you can. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence or silent prayer as your conscience finds appropriate. Thank you. Please be seated. Council members, still trying to get my windows and monitors set up here. Council members, you have an agenda before you. Are any changes required to that agenda?
No changes for me.
I have an item I'll be bringing up under new business.
Okay, do you want to add it to the agenda or do you just want to bring it up as item number 3 or after the 2 that are already on new business?
That would be fine.
Okay, then we'll just do that. If there are sounds like there are no changes. So if there are no changes,
Mr. Mayor, if I
yes.
may,
Yes.
just clarification, the third item of new business would be the third item, or could we potentially put it under as the second one, since the second new item of new business is a closed meeting?
Yes, that is
I like that idea.
that's a good point. We'll put it, I will allow it to happen in there. So item 1.5 will be I'll call for any items of new business before we go into closed session.
Thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments? Any changes? If not, may I please have a motion to adopt the agenda as submitted?
Adopt.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Motion made by Councilmember Kellon, seconded by Councilmember Inyang, I believe was the first one to say second.
Yep.
Okay, any discussion of the agenda? We already sort of had time to discuss it, but any additional discussion?
Nope.
Any public comments?
Nope.
Okay, I'll do a roll call vote for those who I see. I'll roll call everybody. Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Foe does not appear to be here. Councilmember Lingua?
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang?
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia does not appear to be here. Councilmember Kellon?
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 4-0. The agenda is adopted. Next item on the agenda. Wow, we don't have any presentations. That's unusual. Next item on the agenda is my report. So now I have to find my report. Want to wish a early happy birthday to former Mayor Vernon Archer. He's having his birthday tomorrow, and also Director Barnes, who is having her birthday on Wednesday. I actually met with former Mayor Archer on Saturday. Had a nice discussion with him about what's going on in Impala. Sounds like some very good things are going on. They're working on affordable housing issues down there, just as we are here, and had a good catch up, and want to try to rekindle activities with Impala. Moving on, I have enjoyed for the last few meetings not having to say much about the COVID-19 situation, and unfortunately that appears to be coming to an end. In the Western states, then COVID, we have a couple of indicators, which are hospitalizations and wastewater virus load. And the wastewater load in the Western states is about a third of where it was at the peak last winter, and increasing very quickly. This is earlier than last year. Last year's summer peak came much later. And so we may be in for a rough ride this summer. So everyone, as usual, I'm just going to say, how to avoid getting the disease is to stay in places that are well ventilated and stay up to date on your vaccines. There's actually expected to be a new vaccine out in the fall. Next on my notes, on, gosh, was it Saturday or Sunday? It was Saturday, I think. Then
Saturday.
Then I was very happy to attend the unveiling of a sculpture at the border between Brentwood and North Brentwood. They took down a Jim Crow era barrier that had been put up in the 50s to separate the then segregated white town of Brentwood from black town of North Brentwood. And Brentwood was at that time a sundown town. And over the last 8 years, then the two towns, and working with many, many partners, have put together a lot of money, and they now have a sculpture of two hands, one reaching from Brentwood, one from North Brentwood, tearing down the old barrier that used to be there. And it was fantastic ceremony. Lots of people were there. Councilmember Smith was there, and it was really quite moving. And I've actually been back to the sculpture twice since then, just to look at it a little bit closer without the crush of people that were surrounding it at that time. Moving on, I was very happy to attend MML. I think that was last week, but boy, the weeks have just been flowing. Had lots of good conversations, lots of information about what's going on in other municipalities, what's going on in the county. And one of the things that happened there was I ran into State's Attorney Braveboy, and today I was able to have a meeting with representatives from her office, including State's Attorney Braveboy, about the automobile tragedy that occurred last November, the death of the two young children. And the State's Attorney sort of carefully led me through their indictment of the driver in that incident. And the actual accident report is still very much not available because there is this ongoing legal action, the prosecution of the driver. But I was glad to have the conversation and look forward to continued communications with that office as we move forward. I didn't mention this about the Brentwood, but I ran into Mayor Takesha James at the Brentwood statue unveiling. And she told me that unfortunately, the state appears to be moving in a direction of supporting the maglev project between Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. And this is not going to directly impact us. All of the impacts are on other municipalities that are further are far away from, not too far away, but relatively far away from Riverdale Park. But I'm hoping we can support those municipalities as they move forward and trying to negotiate the best deals that they can on that. And that will wrap up my report, except to wish everyone a happy and relaxing and pleasant summer. And hope that everyone finds some time to relax a little bit and get caught up on good things. And I'm certainly looking forward to tomato season starting very soon. So that completes my report. Oh, there is the one item. Let me get that up on screen. We had a closed meeting on the 3rd of June, starting at 10:42 p.m. Motion to close the meeting was made by Councilmember Lingua, seconded by Councilmember Smith. Voting in favor, Councilmembers Smith, Faux, Lingua, Enyang, and Calon. I abstained. Councilmember Mejia was not present. The reason for the closing of the meeting was General Provisions Article 3-305B8, consult with staff, consultants, or other individuals about pending or potential litigation. Persons attending the closed session were myself, Director Barnes, Director Chelton, Town Manager Listician, Director Lewis, and council members Faux, Lingua, Calon, Enyang, and Smith. The topic discussed was a likely lawsuit in response to recent legislative actions and how to minimize the town's exposure in such a lawsuit. No actions were taken, no recorded votes were taken, and the session closed at 11:01 p.m. And that is my report of the closed meeting. And with that, let's move on to the town manager's report. Mr. Town Manager.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and give me a moment to adjust my screens. A few things, as the mayor and council know, but again, for the community, the county recently changed the recycling date to Mondays. And so that was effective today. The residential enforcement zones for automated speed enforcement. I'll stop, Mr. Mayor. There's a question.
If it pleases you, Mr. Mayor, just the one thing to add on the recycling date is the date has changed to Wednesday for the very south end of Ward 1.
Okay. I did not know that because they had advised us that all the full of the town would be Mondays.
Just speculating, but I would assume they're referring to zip codes and who delivers the mail, which if you are on the very south end of Ward 1, that is Hyattsville. So that is certainly the case for us at the far south end of town here.
Thank you very much for that, council member, and we will follow up with the county to make sure that their materials reflect that as well.
Outstanding, thank you.
So today, July 1 was the date that, and for the residential enforcement districts, we've been advertising that in 2 editions of the Crier. Social media signs have gone up in some of the locations. And so only where the signs have been posted is it now effective. We're going to wait until the signs go up on East-West Highway before we'll make those changes there. The town hall and DPW operations will be closed on July 4th in observation of Independence Day. The town was awarded $195,000 in a CDBG grant for a lighting project along Lafayette from Riverdale Road to Longfellow. And so that's a project that's in the budget. We were anticipating this, but we've received the official notification. And we've also recently applied for some other grants, a local cybersecurity grant. And then just today, through the Anacostia Trails Heritage area, a rocket grant. And that is, and I'll speak about that later when we're talking about Plummer Park, but that's tied to the work of the Loeb Fellows, but that grant application went in as well. And we have released the RFP for the council chamber camera project, and where proposals are expected by July 15th. And just as a kind of an FYI, we're working on an Adopt a Road block program. So road or block, and we'll have more information at the August work session. The Safe Streets for All, we actually hope to have an update this evening on the agreement. We don't. We're still working with the representatives from the federal government, and we'll have an update at the end of the summer. And then the only other thing I have is we do believe that we'll need a special legislative session sometime between now and the end of August. And looking at dates that the mayor may have available, we're thinking either the last week of July or the first week of August. And we will separately outside the meeting poll the council to see which dates work, and then we'll develop the agenda. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Any questions before we move on?
Yes, Mr. Town Manager, I want you to put me through on something here concerning the speed limit on East-West Highway. You mean the whole East-West Highway, the speed limit's going to be amended, or just by Taylor Street only?
The speed limit remains the same on East-West Highway. What changes are the hours of operation of the speed enforcement cameras.
Okay.
The speed limit does not change, sir.
Oh, okay. All right. That was my concern. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Let's move along on the agenda unless there are any other questions from council or members of the public for the town manager. Don't see any. Okay, so next item is the monthly finance report.
Deputy Director Jones.
Sure, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council, members of the public. Tonight's finance report covers the months of April, May, June, as well as a year-to-date total that covers the entire fiscal year. I'd like to make note that the fiscal year did just end yesterday, so there is still a great deal of work that is required to close, so that these numbers are not final. So yeah, for June, revenue for fiscal year 2024 totaled $976,101. Expenditures totaled $625,567, with a net of $350,534. As far as the year to date, we have a revenue total of $9,948,535. Expenditures totaled $8,336,092, with a revenue net expenditure total of
We just lose sound?
I lost him. I think we may have, so Director Smith is still moving. Can you wave, Director Barnes, if you're still there? Okay, so it appears we may have lost Deputy Director Jones.
So the 2024 numbers would be $9,948,535. The expenses, $8,336,092. And the net, $1,612 and $1,612,443 for the FY 2024.
Thank you, Director Smith. Does that conclude the finance report?
That concludes the finance report.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Director Smith?
I've none.
Any members of the public have questions for Director Smith? So I have one question, which is that for the last few months, then we have had expenses larger than revenues, and that was not true this month. Was that the final payment on our share of income tax from the state, or do you know what the what led to that?
I think that's correct. It was the revenue we brought in from the state.
Okay, very good. Okay, may I please have a motion to adopt the monthly finance report subject to audit?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Lingua, seconded by Councilmember Smith to adopt the finance report subject to audit. Is there any discussion of this motion by the council? Are there any public comments on this motion? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Foe appears to still be absent. Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang,
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia has joined us. Councilmember Mejia, do you want?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Kellon,
Aye.
and I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. That brings us to the correspondence summary. And there were no items, so there's not a lot to discuss here. So let's move on to the fire department report.
We have not received a report, Mr. Mayor.
I did not receive one either. So we will skip ahead on that. And that brings us to council, committee, and ward reports. And we'll start with Councilmember Smith, Ward 1.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
before we get to the ward reports, I know we spoke a couple of months ago, and the fire chief mentioned that he would try to find time to talk to the council more in depth about a number of issues. And I don't think those are really touched on some of the updates that have happened in the last few months or so. Do you know if that is still in the works to have like a more detailed conversation or presentation by him?
I haven't heard that. I would think that we might want to have a separate meeting. Maybe the Public Safety Committee could have a meeting and have him come in, and other council members could attend as needed.
Sounds like a plan to me.
And Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Town Manager.
I've spoken with the president from the volunteer department about having a shared presentation with the county coming in and presenting to the council. We had hoped to have that done now. I believe the president is going to be unavailable for the next several weeks. And so we were looking at the end of the summer to have that, if the council is still interested in the county coming in and presenting.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, so back to council committee ward reports. Councilmember Smith, Ward 1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Similarly, attended MML. Good to see colleagues from this council, including the mayor, and of course from across the state at that event. Heard some an inspiring keynote from Governor Moore that really, I've, as mentioned here before, been a fan of his leadership, but so not that there was a doubt, but it's good to see the state's in good hands. Also got to run into council member Marcus Monroe from the town of Brentwood, who I was unaware was on the council there, but our kids used to go to daycare together, and so we've shared birthday parties and things over the years, and then lost touch during COVID. So was great to run into him there and get the invite to be able to go to their program on Saturday, as the mayor mentioned, around their project on Wyndham Road and reunifying those communities. I mentioned to the mayor while we were there, they had a great program for the event that listed out the different places that they got funding from. And I remarked to the mayor, oh, look, this was nice. They gave us a list of people to ask for money for program Plummer Park. Found it interesting that they sort of got some funding from some places that maybe staff probably was thinking about, because they're always ahead of us on things, but I had not thought about that, based on the number of trees that they planted as part of their project, right? It counted, it qualifies as a green space. So they were able to get money from like the Chesapeake Bay Trust for the project. So if we're not thinking about that already, I would encourage staff and us as a council to think about creative ways that, if we add this one thing or another to the Plummer Park project, which would make it, improve the project in its own right, but also might be a creative way to get some more funding for that as we look for ways to improve that. So enjoyed that program and getting to reconnect with Councilmember Monroe, who is also doing some great things with the Prince George's County Municipal Association. The other thing I focused on at MML, which if anyone I met there remembers me for anything, it's going to be for trains. I got to talk to anyone who would listen, including the Deputy Secretary of Transportation about our need to add 2 minutes to the schedule each way for the trains on the Camden line that do not stop in Riverdale Park, that just go straight through to College Park. As expected, they were, non-committal and cautioned that, all of this depends on CSX, and that's always a tough nut to crack. But, I enforced or reiterated that, knowing that more trains on the tracks is a non-starter, and that's not what I'm asking for. I'm just asking for 2 minutes each way. So they were at least receptive to that discussion and indicated they would follow up. I did also talk to a variety of officials, including the mayor of Greenbelt, the mayor of Hyattsville, Councilmember Olson from the PG County Council, and Senator Washington from our Annapolis delegation, all of whom were supportive of the idea and were, if not completely on board, at least interested in joining us in a letter to relevant parties in Annapolis about this issue of improving our train frequency. Because, our growth, the train frequency we have now, as I've mentioned before, is not sustainable for the amount of growth we're anticipating and have already planned for our community. Not to mention our neighboring communities that also use that. And also the point that the mayor of Greenbelt made to me is that, they're highly supportive because they do not have the housing in Greenbelt at the volume, at the inventory level that will be necessary for the new FBI headquarters. So one of the things that they are going to depend on for folks to come to work there and spend their money there is efficient mass transportation from other communities into the town. So Greenbelt was very supportive. So I'm happy to share the context and details with that, Mr. Town Manager, and I'm hoping we can put together an effort on a coordinated letter of some sort, or some sort of coordinated action demonstrating the support from these various officials to the governor's office or the Department of Transportation or whoever needs to be told that we need more trains and people are on board with it. So happy to follow up on that. And that will be all that I have for this evening. So thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. I checked my phone and got a message from Councilmember Foe. He is dealing with a family emergency in Connecticut right now and will not be joining us this evening. So that will take us on to Councilmember Lingua, Ward 3. Councilmember Lingua, there you go.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everybody. Main item I'm going to discuss tonight is the item which will be coming forth under new business, so we can get a little bit ahead and be able to just move on a little more quickly. In the agenda tonight that was added recently, thank you very much, Ms. Barnes, and happy birthday, is a draft letter to MNC PPC regarding an effort over at Riverside Neighborhood Park. It is a project started previously under the Council of Governments as part of their Trees by the Riverside project. And it's an effort by some coordinating effort by some residents in town who have reached out to MNC PPC about dealing with the invasive growth there and to help evolve that into a small forest area and meadow area in order to promote a better habitat balance for both plants, insect, and animals, including pollinators. It's generally the gist of it. Park and Planning had asked for a letter from the town acknowledging the coordinating efforts between 3 residents, and what's essentially part of the new business item is that draft letter for everyone to give a perusal to, and if it reads well enough, or if it needs a tweak here and there, to be able to send that along the parking plan. With that, I'll conclude the report.
Thank you, Councilmember Lingua. Moving on to Ward 4, Councilmember Inyang.
Good evening. I've got a couple updates, and then one unfortunate serious one at the end that I just got on the phone now. But to echo similar sentiments that my colleagues have raised, MML was a huge success. You know, I think it's always one of those things where you, as an elected official, I appreciate being in the presence of folks who have, who are walking a similar journey and are trying to solve similar problems. And so in addition to networking, but being able to just have time when, you don't have to figure out calendars and schedules, you can just pull people aside and talk to them about stuff. And so it was good to see, folks all across the state, but in particular relevant to us, spend time with Councilmember Eric Olson from the county, who was there. We talked about trucks in the neighborhood in sort of Riverdale Park Station and some ideas around that. And so I know that there's ongoing conversations about that. I know the HOA has provided a letter in terms of, supporting the idea of sort of like signage. And I think the bigger change is more so the idea of, proactively trying to route trucks down Woodbury Street when they come off the bridge, as a way to, obviously trying to deter them from even going on. But if they're there, how do we get them to sort of take that route and not try to go around the, Van Buren and the Village Green? It's one of those issues where it unfortunately happens about once every week or so, sometimes more. There was an incident, what's today, Monday, I guess last week, like Thursday or so. Councilmember Olson actually was jogging by, rung my doorbell, and there was a truck there. I called it in to sort of see if police could sort of help this person, and he ended up reversing the wrong way down Rhode Island Avenue, and somehow barely missed 3 cars and his fire hydrant and was able to get away without any major damage. But we asked, did you have a GPS, like a trucking GPS? He said, no, I don't. So it's one of those things where, unfortunately, drivers find themselves in a situation probably because they're just using their regular phones, and we have to find ways to direct them so that we don't have to sacrifice our infrastructure. We also talked stop signs and sort of the new law that was passed about stop sign cameras and enforcement. He made it pretty, Councilman Olson made it pretty clear that there is no process for this. And so I think the next steps would sort of be, as a town, sort of writing a letter in support, and sort of following up. So I think it's my understanding that we're at the Wild West frontier on this stuff. And so we'll just try to have to figure out what makes the most sense in terms of locations, how we went about sort of selecting them, recommendations, and hopefully try to get his support as well as the at-large members before sort of taking it to council. So looking forward to sort of working through what that looks like for us. Was able to catch up with County Council Chair Jolene Ivy's staff, and was made aware of project funds, and sort of like a program from that I think comes out of the MMPPC budget, and sort of, seeing the list of projects that are sort of like ongoing. And I think some of our community grant projects would probably qualify for it, but I think the turnaround time for applying was imminent. And so talk to try to get some funds for our town. We'll follow up if I know more there. But I think it's, again, one of those opportunities that it came up when I asked just around like what's the least little known fact or thing that people or towns don't really take advantage of, and that was what came up talking to her chief of staff. And so I think this is another example of conversations you have when you're with people over time. So that was that's always positive. So And the last thing from MML was fortunate enough to be elected by my peers to be the president for the Maryland Municipal League Black Caucus for 2024-2025. And so, looking forward to sort of cultivating the caucuses was something relatively new this year, and sort of, it's a huge honor, and I take it understanding that. I know there were mayors and council members who've been a part, especially in Prince George's County's delegation, for years, advocating for something like this. And so, for it to be established and then to be recognized to sort of lead it for this year, super excited about that and humbled and honored. Two more things. One other thing, starting the initial conversations with around having a Riverdale Park Station block party. It's been something that I know since I was, president of the HOA years ago. We've talked about what it may look like, and so I think there's an appetite for it. So have a meeting with Mark from K-Fritz, the HOA, and a couple other, businesses, sort of talking about what that might look like, timing, things like that. I know that, super excited to use some of the community grant funding that we have in the budget for this year. But we'll work through some of the logistics of just like, I started going down the rabbit hole of like, okay, for this permit, you need a county permit, and for a county permit, you need, and then quickly it goes down a couple rabbit holes. So, I look forward to sort of walking through that process and see what it looks like. And then obviously, so I can sort of at least better inform others who may want to do something similar, but super excited about that. Hopefully trying to do something maybe by the end of September. If that's too ambitious, maybe sometime later. And then the last is just, I got an email from a resident's mother, from a colleague that I met actually at MML, who said that her a person who lives in Pilot House by the name of Brian Michael Boyd is currently a missing person right now. And so there's I think from the county police, there is a bulletin out, last seen in Beltsville. I emailed it to the town manager, and I think Jessica as well. So if it's possible to add that into the mass meetings or something like that, I encourage anyone who has information about this individual to please reach out to the county, who's sort of, like, I believe, running the investigation. And I can post some of the details in the chat as well. But hopefully, I'm not sure. I know the town acting police chief is on, and I'm not sure if we're aware of that or how involved is Riverdale Park Police in this. But would be great if we could obviously assist in any way if we're not already. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you. Sorry to hear that that last bit of news. I'd heard about the missing person, but I didn't realize he was a town resident until just now. And congratulations on your election to lead the Black Caucus. Moving on to Councilmember Mejia, Ward 5.
Good evening. I have no reports for this evening.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, Councilmember Callan, Ward 6.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Mr. Major and Town Manager and staff. 2 weeks ago, we have some disturbances in this river crossing here, building number 5609. But luckily, I was coming from Riverdale Road. As soon as I got in, I saw 3 police officers came from Riverdale. I think they called them, they came, but I didn't disclose myself to them. They went inside the basement. As soon as they went down inside the basement, I think these guys, they know that they have called police for them. So they ran to the other side. While the police are going in, they came to the other side two of them, but their appearance is not welcome. They pass grumbling. They're so dirty. Then the police, they went inside. They searched all over. When they came out, I told them that, I said, well, I think the people that you guys are looking for, they just passed here. They went to the parking lot. So we discussed things. I disclosed myself to them. I said, I'm a council member, Cologne, Ward 6. Oh, they were happy. I said, I will bring this matter up because this is good for us. Whenever something happened, they call you guys. He came immediately and took care of that. Well, that is good for the residents and even myself in my ward. So, so we chat and they return back to the station. Then, like day before yesterday, I always visit this liquor store, gas station, and other 7-Eleven and other things. But these people are getting a lot of disturbances. So I don't know what are we going to do to help these people. Because sometimes they don't even listen to the people who own their businesses. When they are talking to them, some of them, they are drunk. They lie down on the doorway and this. So every day when I go there, they report to me. So Mr. Mayor and town manager, I don't know what are we going to do to help these people so that they can have peace of mind where they are doing their businesses. It's good for anybody go and buy something and go, but don't buy something, sit down there making noise, you know. So, but anyhow, I told them that I will try. Let me bring it to the notice of the mayor and the town manager. So this is my own short report. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilmember. Mr. Town Manager, Mr. Turner, Chief Turner, any comments on the liquor store question?
I don't have any comments. Chief?
Are we referring to the chop tank? Is I'm just want to be clear. So
Yes.
we have been out and we spoke with Mr. Lee, the owner, and they have our direct number, and they do call, and we've asked them to call us directly if there's an issue. And we've been able to eliminate some of those problems, but it's an ongoing issue. Sometimes people are overserved, and that becomes an issue as well.
Okay, thank you, Chief Turner. Let's move on the agenda. Next item on the agenda is public comments on non-agenda items and consent agenda items. Are there any public comments? I don't see any hands raised or microphones unmuted, so I'm going to assume that means no. And that means we can move on to the consent agenda. Can someone please make a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Smith, seconded by Councilmember Inyang. This is neither discussed nor debated by our rules. I'll do a roll call vote immediately. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang.
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia.
Aye.
Councilmember Callan.
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. That leads us to the legislative action items. First item is a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-OR-07 regarding amendment of the fiscal year 2025 budget. Can someone please make that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Lingua, seconded by Councilmember Inyang to adopt ordinance 2024-OR-07 regarding amendment of the fiscal year 2025 budget. I would recommend that staff give us a brief reminder of the reasons for the budget adoption, and then we can go to council discussion at that time.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm pinch hitting for Director Lewis tonight, who is off this week. So the predicate for this was the different code interpretation as it related to the fire alarm system for the municipal center project. And so we're moving funds from general fund to the specific project. And separately from this motion, we had shared with the council that we identified sources that are going to increase the general fund. And one of those was the previous year taxes that were not paid, not billed and then not paid by the St. John's properties. I'm happy to report that in an unrelated meeting that staff had with the St. John's folks last Thursday, they've advised they have received their invoice from the county tax office. That's who handles this invoicing, and they'll be paying it promptly. So that's a nice influx here, and we'll certainly work to offset this. And then we anticipate revenue net expenditures to be higher than initially anticipated. So we have the funds to cover this transfer.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Is there council discussion of this motion and this ordinance?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead, Councilmember Yang.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I know this happens, and I appreciate staff figuring out a way to make the budget whole for something like this. Is there a sense now in terms of what the impact is for the overall sort of finish date for the project now?
I don't have that. I do know that this is going to allow us to get the fire department or the fire alarm system completely upgraded, but I don't have a timeline on that. We can prepare that upon Director Lewis's return, and we can send that out to the council.
Thank you.
Any additional council discussion? Not seeing any public comments? Don't appear to be any public comments, so I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang.
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia.
Aye.
Councilmember Kellon.
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is motion to adopt resolution 2024-R-12 establishing the TRP Community Spirit Grant Program. Can I please have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Inyang, seconded by Councilmember Lingua was the one I heard. So go ahead, Councilmember Inyang, you have the floor if you wish to discuss the motion or ask for staff to discuss it.
I'm super excited about a program like this. I think the town has always supported community events, and I think in an effort we have mentioned since I first joined this council, I think it became sort of apparent to me. We know the town is growing. We know that the expectations for programming and community building is increasing, and so the idea of being able to have a program that clearly lays out what's required for community members or organizations to be able to get funding from the town, sort of help further take some of the burden in terms of formalizing and actually throwing programming. I think is great, and really appreciate the dedicated fund and a program structure to sort of wrap around this, and looking forward to not just the events that are thrown as a result of these funds, but also the changing expectations, knowing that, I think success will sort of breed further success. And I look forward to, measuring and seeing how the funds are being requested, and are there ways that we can continue to expand it, because we're getting a lot of great programming events that are community and family friendly. Mr. Mayor, you are muted.
I hate it when that happens. Thank you for your discussion of the motion. Is there additional council discussion of the motion to adopt resolution 2024-R-12?
I think it's a great idea. Look forward to voting on it.
Fantastic. Are there any, don't see any other council members. Are there any public comments on the motion to adopt resolution 2024-R-12? Seeing none, hearing nothing, I will go ahead and do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang,
Yes, aye.
Councilmember Mejia,
Aye.
and Councilmember Kellon.
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. The next item on the agenda is introduction of ordinance 2024-OR-08 regarding multifamily building security amendments. We discussed this at the work session, and this is just an introduction. It's typically introduced, and then we will be voting on it presumably at the special legislative meeting that's coming up in a month or so, to be scheduled. So would someone like to introduce ordinance 2024-OR-08?
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, on an administrative item, whoever's controlling the screen, can you go to the section of the ordinance that discusses the purpose? Thank you.
Motion to introduce ordinance. I don't have the number in front of me. Ordinance 2024 OR-08 for multi-building security amendments for the purpose of modifying the Town of Riverdale Park Property Maintenance Code 2022 and generally relating to building security and properties in the Town of Riverdale Park.
Second.
Well, it's just an introduction, no second required. So Councilmember Inyang, thank you for introducing the that, and we will be discussing it. Will be advertised, and then we'll be discussing it at the special legislative that's to be scheduled shortly. Okay, next item, legislative action item 4, motion to authorize the town manager to sign an agreement with Honey Cove Lawn Care LLC for tree planting and maintenance services. This is RFP number DPW 2024-004. Can we have a staff presentation on this before we have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and we have Numan Haider with us. And so Numan, if you can explain this to us. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I'm Numan Haider. I will be presenting on the RFP contractor selection for tree maintenance and planting services. Staff is seeking mayor and council authorization for the town manager to sign an agreement with the Honey Cove Lawn Care LLC to provide tree planting and maintenance services. Just to provide the overview, on May 24th, staff released an RFP for on-call tree planting and maintenance services to secure a contractor for a period of 5 years. Although the town considered selecting multiple contractors, staff recommended proceeding with only one based on the proposal received. 3 contractors submitted proposals by the due date, which was June 21st. A review committee comprising of Ivy Lewis, Director of Public Works, Laverne Peaks, ARPA Project Manager, myself, and Akina Allen, Special Project Coordinator, evaluated the proposals. Honey Cove was selected due to their competitive pricing and references. The selected contractor will be implementing the town's 5-year tree maintenance plan, which includes, just to summarize, ground cleaning, raising, reduction, and removal of hazardous branches, along with the on-call tree removal for removal and pruning services. Honey Cove will also handle stump grinding, debris removal, and post-planting reports. Additionally, Honey Cove will provide the personal equipment and material for planting 150 native trees in fall 2024, which is funded by the Urban Tree Grant Program. Moreover, they will offer tree maintenance and removal services to residents at the town rates with private agreements between the residents and the contractor itself. Regarding the budget, the purchasing, planting, and maintenance of the 150 trees that I just mentioned through the Urban Tree Grant, the total cost for that would be $39,000. Whereas the tree maintenance plan is funded by FY 2025 approved budget at we have $115,000 for that purpose. And finally, the staff recommends to authorize the town manager to sign an agreement with Honeycomb Lawn Care for a period of 5 year term, sorry. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Hayter. I think we're ready actually now for a motion to authorize the town manager to sign an agreement with Honey Cove Lawn Care, and then we can move to questions at that point. Councilmember Smith, do you have a question that's needed before you
So
can make?
moved.
Okay, very good.
I was going to make that motion and then ask my question, but
Second.
Okay, so motion by Councilmember Lingua, seconded by Councilmember Inyang. Is that correct? Wasn't paying as much attention there as I thought I should be. Okay, then let's go ahead.
Sounds right to
Councilmember,
me.
Councilmember Smith, go ahead with your question.
sure. First of all, just want to applaud staff for hard work on this, particularly the part about having residents eligible for the same rates that the town is getting. Having that being able to leverage our economy scale for our residents is fantastic, and I hope that's something we can replicate in other places where it makes sense. And as I have a resident, a constituent who is in the market for an arborist, and that I know you and I, Ms. Milicic, have exchanged correspondence with, I'm wondering, assuming we approve this evening, does that mean tomorrow that person can call and get that rate, or what's the timeline on that?
So I'll do my best to answer this question. So we have our standard agreement, and all their information has been put into that. If Director Lewis was here tonight, I would have a more sure answer, but it's my understanding that the agreement is ready for my signature. But I'm going to wait for Director Lewis to return before I fix my signature.
Sounds great. Thank you, Mr. Town Manager.
Okay, any additional council discussion of the motion to authorize the town manager to sign agreement with Honey Cove Lawn Care LLC for tree planting and maintenance services?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Inyang, go ahead.
It makes sense. I guess my question was, is this replacing an existing contract, or were we without such services prior to this contract being signed?
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Mr. Town Manager.
The town has utilized a contractor over the years, and it predates me. But we did not have a written agreement with that contractor. It would be kind of just it was call them out, and they would give a price, and it was yes. And so what we really needed to do was to develop a accurate tree inventory and a tree maintenance plan, which that's occurred. And that enabled us to then have a clearer description of what it was that we needed unit prices for. And so while this is a 5-year agreement, as with all of our agreements, we can get out in 90 days with or without cause, with appropriate notice to the other party.
Thank you.
Okay, any additional council discussion of this motion? Are there any public comments on this motion? Seeing no hands raised, no microphones unmuted, I will move to a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua?
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang?
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia?
Aye.
Councilmember Kellon?
Aye.
and I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. The next legislative action item, motion to authorize the town manager to approve the purchase of one vehicle from Ford Motors, Inc. and upfit vehicle with police emergency equipment. This is vehicle replacements, police CIP project number 11 PD06. Again, can we have a brief introduction to this and then a motion to authorize?
Chief Turner, if you could update the council on this, I have to say it first, acquisition of an electric vehicle for the police department.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Staff requests the mayor and council authorize the town manager to approve the purchase of one vehicle from Ford Motor Company. Outfit the vehicle with police emergency equipment. The approved FY 2025 CIP budget anticipates the purchase of one Ford 2024 electric vehicle. The police department recommends a one-time purchase of this vehicle at a base price of $67,085 through Ford Motor Incorporated. Per the Baltimore County contract, the police department recommends the town ride that Baltimore County bid BPO number 0004504. The outfitting for the police emergency equipment at a cost of $13,728 will be done riding a Howard County purchasing agreement, contract number 4400003685. This competitively bid contract was awarded through the Howard County Office of Purchasing to provide these services. The police department recommends the town ride the Howard County bid. The funding for this purchase is available in the FY 2025 CIP budget, project number 11 PD06, vehicle replacements police. And again, this would be the first electric vehicle for the police department. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Turner. May I please have a motion to authorize the town manager to approve the purchase of one vehicle from Ford Motors?
So moved.
Is there a second? Motion by Councilmember Lingua, seconded by Councilmember Inyang. And looks like Councilmember Smith has his hand up. Go ahead, Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, just want to applaud staff and particularly the police department for continuing to move our fleet to a greener fueled one. Really happy to see this. Just a couple of questions. And if we don't have the answers at arm's reach, that's fine. We can follow up. But is this the special service model of the F-150 Lightning, or is that like what the 13K is for, is to upfit it into that? I'm just not sure. I know they have a special service model, but I don't know if it requires more things, or if this is just taking a stock one and turning it into a special service, essentially.
So I believe that it's a special service vehicle. That outfitting cost is for cameras, radios, computer mounts, the lights, sirens, stuff like that. So,
Sure.
I know it is a extended battery vehicle, so it has a
Nice.
large battery.
Nice. I've been really happy with my battery, and I have the standard range, so should be, you're of course going to be putting more miles on it per day than I do, but shouldn't be a problem. Hope your officers are ready for the acceleration, because I was tremendously impressed with it. It's ridiculously beyond any pickup I've ever driven before. So happy to see this. Happy to support what we've the money, or spending the money that we have previously approved in CIP. So looking forward to voting on this.
Very good. Additional council questions or comments? Are there any public comments? Okay, I will do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang,
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia,
Aye.
and Councilmember Callant.
Aye.
I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. That brings us, and a good bit earlier than I thought it was going to be, to unfinished business. So let's go ahead and dive in there. First item is the Council Dais Municipal Center Renovations CIP project number 18GG01.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. And so the memo that you have in front of you recaps the discussion from October of 23 in terms of the preferences that were conveyed to staff. On page 2 of the memo, you see some illustrations of a curved desk. There's 2 here. This one has a 7-foot distance from a front line, and the one beneath it has a 7'6". Director Barnes, I sent you an email right before the meeting. Yes, can you zoom in on where the desk is? And so this particular arch doesn't match what I just showed you, but it's 7'6", but it's not exactly the same as what the manufacturer has. But I want you to see this because the dotted line shows the difference between what the mayor and council have used over the years and what a desk would look like there. And so much more rounded, so the mayor and council will have a better view of each other, but the goal is to still be welcoming to those in attendance. Can we go back to the one with the 2? Page 2 of the memo. And so this was provided by a vendor that we've had discussions with, and we're recommending the second one because it does provide slightly more space. The vendor says actually you could fit 8 folks around this table, but we figured just having some additional space instead of kind of being crowded would be good. And the next step is for the council to give us direction. Hopefully you like one of these 2. If not, we can come back with some other options. If you like one of these 2, then we'll work to determine the feasibility of things such as if we can afford the bullet resistant panels underneath and things of that nature. The basic desk does come with some wiring, so folks can plug in their devices and charge their devices as well. And with that, I'll take questions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Are there council questions or comments on these this item? Councilmember Smith, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With apologies to anyone on the council who will have a better view of the council member from Ward 1. That perked my ears up about the bullet resistant panels. Does at this point, and maybe this is a conversation for later, but does staff have any thoughts on that? My initial thought is that something that we really need, but we are in interesting times, so maybe that's a little bit naive on my part.
Mr. Mayor, can I respond?
Please do, Mr. Town Manager.
So from the October discussion, the council indicated that if we could obtain a reasonable price on that. We don't have a price on that yet. We first have to select a desk. Even though these are similar, the prices for the panels would vary because of the panels would vary. So we will get a price on it. It's my understanding that if we don't go for them now, they can be added at a later time. As for the need, I just my personal view, it's one of those things you don't need it until you need it, and then it would be too late. We have in the renovations have a bullet resistant glass that's going in at the staff front counter. And the counter below, or the wall below the counter, we had those concrete block cores filled with concrete to provide an area of refuge for staff. And so the thought is that would provide an area of refuge. I think it's getting more and more common to when you're doing a retrofit, and it's an unfortunate sign of our times, but my recommendation would be that we at least get the price, and if we can't afford it now, we should budget for it in the future.
Thank you for that, Mr. Town Manager, and for pointing out the unique moment we live in, and would just take a quick opportunity to point out that incidents of gun violence continue to happen in our communities across the country, in the public square, at public meetings, and it's because decision makers and lawmakers above our level that have the power to do something about it refuse to do so. I personally like this second option. I think that's great. I like the wider. I'm not sure what the geometric term is for that, but I like the biggerness. So thank you.
Biggerness is a technical term, I guess. Additional council questions or comments?
Also, Mr. Mayor, also in favor of option 2, the biggerness. I think it's a good thing to strive for, and curious about what the pricing options would be for the bullet resistant panels. And my last question just around, is this the last sort of outstanding item for the building outside of the fire suppression, fire alarm thing we talked about earlier?
Yes, and so staff have made all the other design decisions in consultation with the design professional. So in terms of color palettes and all that kind of stuff. So I believe this is it then, sir. And since this is your desk, staff were not comfortable in saying this is the desk that the council wants. That's a decision for you all.
Councilmember Lingua, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I can't remember if the previous desk was a 36-inch width or not. Does anyone have the dimensions of the previous desk?
I do not have that this evening, sir. I would say that it was probably close to 34 or to 36, may have been 34.
Yeah. Because 36 is really wide. And it just, it's just, you're just taking, the room is confined as it is. And the difference in that width is that difference between feeling like there's space or feeling cramped. And that's.
And I will say, sir, if I may, these are desks that come standard. We did not ask for a custom size desk. We can explore that, but I think the price tag would go up if we're asking for custom widths. Price may go up even if we're asking for something with less material.
What difference are we talking? A 10% difference, 15% difference?
I don't know that, sir. That's something that we can inquire and ask if how much the price would change if we want a custom size.
Okay. Well, it would be interesting to know. Another thing I've just noticed about the design is, if we're looking at doing something that might not be as standard as otherwise, possibility of creating a little bit. Right now, we're looking at pretty much something that's like almost like a semicircle. Whereas before we had something which was more along the lines of an elliptical arc. Pardon me. Can we go to that one image where it showed the?
It was kind of an overlay, yes.
Yeah, that overlay one. Yeah. I was thinking, what would be the possibility of just doing something where it's kind of not as a little more relaxed not as tight of a circle around and in, and just probably increase the, I was never good with geometric terms. Increase the yeah,
Decrease the curvature.
yeah, decrease the curvature, more so it's more like a little more of that outer, or where council will be sitting is has a little more, has, you know, slightly expand the curvature of uh the outer curve, and thus, you know, the inner curve will follow, not by much, but just kind of relax that arc a little bit, for lack of a better term.
And that's something that
If
we
that
can,
makes sense.
that's something that we can both talk with the vendor about, but we'd also have to talk with our architect. You'll
Okay.
notice on the schematic, we have, for example, behind the center seat where the mayor traditionally sits, you have 5 foot 1 1/4 inches is in this illustration. But regardless of which desk, we want to make things as handicap accessible.
Right.
And so having the distance behind, so if you relax this, and you look on the top there, you see the new ramp is going to be on the north side. So you may end up with a little pinch point there for that last seat. And so I know the architect was considering clearances as well, and working with the vendor to select options.
Okay. See, that's the one thing that we're not really seeing on, well, again, and this is where perhaps looking at a slimmer counter area can gain back some of that space. So as opposed to being 36, being 32 could probably help accommodate that.
And again, we will talk to the vendor about different options that they have and whether this would be a custom build as opposed to a stock build.
Okay. That's all I had on it.
Thank you, Councilmember Lingua. Council, is there a consensus here? Or are we going to wait for feedback from the vendor to address Councilmember Lingua's concerns?
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilmember Yang.
I think the for me, option 2 makes sense. I do have a concern around the timing of it. Like, I don't know. I know the project's already been delayed, and you know, I hold out hope that maybe in August, you know, when we're supposed to reconvene, like, would it be ready for us to be there? Maybe that's not, you know, the case anymore. But you know, other delays, like I'm kind of sensitive to the fact that I know it's been years since we've been trying to make this work, and so I'm in favor of going with option 2 as designed.
Council, other members of the council, thoughts?
This project, this whole concept of renovating town hall has been a ongoing task dating back to the years of Patrick J. Prangley, which is now the better part of 14 years. For an extra month or two, that doesn't concern me. My concern is that we exhaust all options before we settle on something that we may find later that we may not be as comfortable with. I think that goes for figuring out what we want to do with this design, about incorporating panels as well. share that I had the same question as a colleague from the First Ward about that. I appreciate his expressing it. It's my thoughts.
Any, so we have one council member who wants have more options. We have one council member who wants to go with option 2. Third, who initially, Councilmember Smith, I believe you initially wanted to go for option 2 and its biggerness. And are you interested in more information, other options, or are you going to suggest moving ahead with option 2?
I'm interested in hearing the options, but to the point made by my colleague from the Fourth Ward, you know, if that is I don't want to hold the project up for that. I think what we have here is good and workable with the second option. But if we can get more information, I'm always happy to hear that.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Town Manager, go ahead.
if I may, Director Barnes or Mr. Charlton, can you put up the other schematic? So we can proceed with the redesign of the dais. And that's what would really hold things up. If we're talking about not extending the dais you see here, 2 feet, 10 3/4 inches, we're rounding up and saying 3 feet. Putting the ramps in and that, the desk will not hold up the project. What would hold up the project is if you all said, well, we don't want to extend the platform and we want to explore options there, then that would bring the current work to a stop in that room. So as long as we can move forward, the platform's going to change, and whatever desk you all decide on has to fit within that extended platform. And if we're on the same page there, then supply chain would only be the thing that could delay it. And it wouldn't delay the project, it'd delay the installation of a desk. Just so we're on the same page in terms of that. So if I can at least get that you're good with extending the dais, then we can come back for the special with information on the desk. And what we're looking at is a delay of 4 weeks. Because if we had clarity tonight, we would tell the vendor and the architect tomorrow. And so 4 weeks from now, if we get that clarity, that's the delay that you would have.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead.
I was basing the alterations, the variations on the desk based on what is already planned there in those plans for the dais, for that platform. It's based on that. There's no asking to change that. It's just a matter of changing, seeing if, the design of the desk could be modified within that planned dais.
Within the planned platform?
Yeah, platform, yeah.
Okay, just wanted to be sure we were talking about the same thing.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds, I think we have a consensus that the platform is acceptable, and I'm certainly interested in hearing about some of the options that Councilmember Lingua brought up. So I do have one sort of technical question, which is how the bullet, if we went with the desk as drawn on this image, how would the bulletproof panels be configured for the end positions? Would the flat surfaces that's facing directly out would be bulletproof also?
That's my understanding, sir.
Okay. just wanted to be sure of that. So that means there will be no opportunity for sticking your leg out the side there. So,
That's the 3 feet.
very good. Okay, and is there there's just an idea of there will be lots of plugs? Are we talking about like at least 2, maybe 4 per seat?
Yes, there'll be multiple outlets, and then it's my understanding it'll be wired for phone chargers and that as well.
Yeah, I'm always concerned because the phone chargers seem to change cables every 5 or 6 years, whereas
That was going to be my question.
Yeah.
But maybe there could just be a little cubby that the latest and greatest charging adapters could fit into, or something like that. Okay, so does it sound like we have a consensus, council, that we're going to ask the architects to move ahead with the platform and bring us more options for DAIS as quickly as possible, and so that we could potentially maybe see those a week before the special legislative meeting?
As soon as we receive the options, we'll forward them to the council.
Okay. So I'm going to assume we're with that and move on to the next item unless there's additional discussion or public comment. Not seeing any of either, so let's go ahead. Next item under unfinished business is the status of the Adam and Emily Plummer Park CIP project 19GG01.
And again, you have me filling in for Director Lewis. I don't know how she managed to schedule all these things on the agenda at such a convenient time. But as discussed at the last meeting, staff were putting together a project status in terms of where we are. And so the memo outlines what has been done. If we can scroll down through the memo a little bit here. Keep going. I believe it's on the next page. Project status. So yes, if attached to this is the Lazy Meadow concept, as well as some engineering documents. Staff have laid out here what has been done. You'll note that item 2 addresses one of the funding sources, and that grant application specifically called out the Lazy Meadow concept. And if we did an entirely different concept, we'd have to run that by the funder. If we're adding to the concept, we believe that we will not have any issues with the funder there. And that funder is DNR, Department of Natural Resources, with the state. So we have applied for the DPI permits for the stormwater, and we're expecting that permit approval to be this month. And then we've completed the design for permitting purposes for the Lazy Meadow concept, which addresses stormwater and the rest of the site. And then if we go down through the memo a little bit further, can you go back up where we cover budget, bottom of page 2? So we explain what the budget is there. We have drawn down some of the funds. So we've either spent or obligated a little over $100,000. And then where we see opportunities on top of page 3 of this memo is that there's opportunities to, there's an area comprising about 1/4 of an acre where the gazebo sits, that can be redesigned with commemorative elements. There's 4 entrances into the park, 3 on Tuckerman side, 1 on River Tech Court, and that can be designed with elements that brand the park and create an experience for users that enter the park. And then we see that there's a grassy strip 2 feet wide on each side of the walkways throughout the park that could accommodate storyboards and things of that nature. So we have applied for a rocket grant. I mentioned that earlier through ATHA that we could use to help offset the cost of the Loeb Fellows for their design work. And then I believe at the very bottom of this memo, it talks about we have a meeting scheduled. Did that get added? I don't see it here. But we do have a meeting scheduled upon Director Lewis's return with one of the Loeb Fellows and with Miss Otto, and to talk about how design elements could be incorporated per the what staff have identified as opportunities. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Council questions? Comments?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead, Councilmember Lingua.
These new design plans from the Loeb Group, are they going to meet storm water management requirements?
They would have to, sir. So anything that's proposed cannot change what we are doing stormwater wise. If it did, it would require a complete rebudgeting.
Right. And do we know if any of the design recommendations from the Loeb Group would change those stormwater management? So we have no idea at all.
Well,
do we know if they took into consideration the stormwater management requirements on that site when they, suggested these various designs?
I wasn't there, sir. I don't know what the discussion entailed.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Yang, go ahead.
Yes, I think the stormwater management, I think, was like a top concern on the area. I think there was the designs, quote unquote, really are around, I think, were mostly around the pathways themselves, and then opportunities to sort of add commemorative pieces or contemplative or memorials. And so the overall design itself, in terms of like location, we toured the area and we're sort of pointed out the former baseball diamond and certain things in terms of like what was soggy and other things. So all that was not touched at all. So I think where everyone was always on board with the idea that the stormwater management stuff is important to keep, and that was never discussed to sort of change that.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead.
I'm hearing a lot of that it was thought that it was incorporated. I'm not hearing anything absolute and deliberate. And the reason I just have this concern is because we just passed a budget amendment because we thought, not really anyone's fault on this end, but through other parties, we thought that we were all right with what we needed to pass the fire regulation. And then it comes to find out that it wasn't, which in turn is now costing us an additional $235,000. Fortunately, yes, we do have a source that we can be able to find that money, yet still that is $235,000 that we will not get to use otherwise, because someone along the way thought we were okay with what was on the plan. And the one concern I'm having about this with these designs, being that we have a plan submitted in already, which is taking into consideration the stormwater needs for that area, which, in my opinion, is very important based on our topography around here, based on our elevation around here, and based on the type of storms we've been experiencing lately. That whatever design we come up with for this park, as inspiring and uplifting it can be, the one fundamental design that really needs to be able to be solid is the design for the stormwater management on that park. And from what I heard from the Loeb presentation, I wasn't hearing anything that was taking that into consideration, especially when I'm hearing about design concepts for an elevated pathway. So I think there's a lot of nuts and bolts here that need to get squared away, and what the cost is going to be. And really, it's about making a decision, a conscious decision by the council to essentially abandon the Lazy Meadow, the Lazy Meadow concept design, for which we have funding for $177,000 plus the other $100,000, over $250,000 already towards this project, to then go and like do a dramatic shift on design. It's something I think we really need to think about. I understand how we want to put things and tie in the story of the plumbers with Riversdale, with Mount Rose. And I think that's important, and I think there's a lot to be explored there as well. I'm just wondering, how are we going to do this without really seeing a fully drawn out, laid out, all bases covered design plan for us to forego what has been in the works now for several years? I don't know if this is going to take, possibly modifications to what the Loeb group is suggesting. If that's the case, okay. But I think we really need to look at this very carefully.
Does that complete your remarks, Councilmember?
Yes, it does.
Councilmember Inyang, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Can I get some clarification in terms of like the purpose of this report? It's my understanding that this was to get an understanding of what has been spent, where we are right now, and it was in no point trying to talk about changing the design or abandoning the park. It was really sort of get an understanding, so we're talking factual, because prior to this meeting right now, there have been a lot of uncertainty in terms of what was spent, what money is allocated. And so that is it my understanding that that was the purpose of this sort of report, was to get an understanding so we can talk factually in terms of what money is allocated?
That was my understanding. Mr. Town Manager, do you agree with that?
Well, that's what we tried to do in the memo, was to list what has been done, what has been either spent or obligated, and but also where we saw opportunities where there could be some modifications. So that's all I have to say in direct response to your question. And when you're finished, I have a thought.
Thank you. That was my understanding as well. And I appreciate the report because I think it answered a lot of questions that I had in terms of how much money was spent, what was allocated. The other question I have is around the stormwater management elements currently in the design right now. Are there particular parts of the design that sort of like encompasses that? It was my understanding that there was a stormwater drain that was planned to be put in. Is there anything in addition to that besides the stormwater drain?
There is. So in the infield area of the old Diamond, there's going to be an inlet that's plumbed over to a stormwater main on Lafayette. But the Lazy Meadow concept in and of itself, with the plantings that the landscape architect came up with, those all the way down to what's planted there is part of a stormwater management plan. And so the Lazy Meadow concept, from staff perspective, is the concept that's being built here. And if there was going to be a change to say, well, we're not going to have the Lazy Meadow concept, then that would impact stormwater management. And then not that it couldn't be overcome, but staff would have to then work with the engineers to address stormwater in a different way. And so what we've recommended is there's some areas where things could be incorporated. But from my perspective, what we envisioned was having a meeting with the Loeb Fellows and the town's landscape architect and engineer who's working on this, and to see if there were ways to incorporate without moving away from the Lazy Meadow concept. I know that we heard things about, as Councilmember Lingua said, a raised walkway, this, that, and the other. That hasn't been discussed with the town's landscape architect and the engineer, the project engineer. So we don't even know if that's feasible.
It also wasn't a sort of set design. So I appreciate the comment. And it was a you know, I would just really encourage, I think, all of us to not, you know, you did, to your earlier question, the second to last paragraph talks about the meeting that you have with the Loeb Fellows and Miss Otto, and the Lionscape to see out the Lionscape, I guess the town staff talking about the concept. Looking forward to that meeting. I think it'll be good. I'm sure you'll raise all the points you just mentioned right now, as well with the three suggestions that you talked about earlier before. You know, I attended all the meetings and all the discussions, and in my opinion, if we're looking for more concrete, factual things, since the fire alarm thing is sort of top of mind, in terms of you know, we thought we had it, but in the end it didn't. I would say I'm pretty confident, 100% confident that the stormwater management will be at the heart of this. And there's never been a conversation about sort of changing that. And so I appreciate town staff taking the approach to have a discussion, you know, treating this with an open mind to sort of see where are there opportunities that we can take a park that was designed, not intended to be memorializing a family, and then afterwards choosing to do so, and let's not making the mistake of just retroactively putting a name on something with no idea and thought in terms of how we're going to actually use it functionally or memorialize a family that we agreed to do so. And so I think it is, as much as I am sensitive to the need for the stormwater management stuff, I'm also as extremely sensitive to the idea that if we choose something to just be expeditious and not actually be intentional with how we think about this, it will be, I would suggest we remove the name from it, because this is something that would have large implications in a negative way if the town sort of seems to go about this in a haphazard way. The mayor just talked about what Brentwood and North Brentwood did, and I appreciate the thoughtfulness of that. And I'm sure there are opportunities where you can cut corners, and I just don't think that's smart, to say the least. And so I appreciate the town staff taking the approach that they are, and sort of meeting with it, and let town council know how we can support in any way.
Thank you, Councilmember. I would like to weigh in for just a moment. I don't usually do this, but I want to just say a few words. That I think that the Loeb Fellows are working, and Ms. Otto included, and she's a Loeb Fellow also, are looking to do something within this space, and we now have definitive limits on, or an understanding of where we are in the project. And before, we didn't have that. And so I think that every architect who has ever lived has been presented with series of limitations on what designs they can and cannot do, and I'm confident that the Loeb Fellows will be able to work within the constraints that we have without completely upending the project. If we come to them and say this is where we are, these are constraints, and just mention that the project for the Brentwoods Unity sculpture, that process started 8 years ago. And so getting that one item up and the park done and so on took a really long time. And so there's lots of time ahead of us. With that, Councilmember Smith, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just associate myself with the comments from my colleague from Ward 4 and with the mayor. As the gentleman from the 4th Ward mentioned, the Loeb Fellows haven't proposed anything. They haven't suggested anything. They've given us some information, some thoughts, and said, here's some things you should think about. And those of us that have engaged with that thought, yeah, we should think about those things. And as the mayor said, like, if we have to have these things that are on this document here to get the funding for the park, I don't think anyone is saying we should walk away from that. And there, there's certainly plenty of room within this to, paint within the lines, and intelligent and creative people can come up with something that both honors the Plummer family legacy, the legacy of the others that were enslaved in our town, and still doesn't jeopardize our funding. So thankful for this and grateful for this presentation, Mr. Town Manager, and I think we are definitely firmly within the bounds of what we can do here to accomplish both of those goals.
Any additional council discussion of this report? So just one detail, Mr. Town Manager, that I think would be good if the landscape architect and anyone else involved in the stormwater management came in, is to understand whether the county considers the crushed granite on the current design to be permeable or non-permeable. I think that might be just that little piece of information might help the meeting with Ms. Otto and the Loeb Fellows, other Loeb Fellows, go better if they knew what that was, knew what the answer was.
I'm sorry, sir, go ahead.
And I'm pretty sure that the raised walkway that's on the K-Fritz property on the Baltimore Avenue side of that is considered permeable because it's raised and it's held up on poles. And so I think that that option, which was not presented as a design conclusion, it was just a something that was put out as a possible idea. I think that could be done without impacting the stormwater management, but I don't know. To be determined. Go ahead, Mr. Town Manager.
If it pleases the council, sir, since the meeting is going to be coming up, I believe next week, we'll be able to have an update at the special meeting, either the end of the month or in August. That way everyone knows the results of the meeting and what the recommendation of the town staff is after having a more detailed discussion with the Loeb Fellows.
That sounds good. Any additional council discussion? Any public comments? Okay, let's move on the agenda. Next item is Riverdale Park Community and Municipal Center Project Update, also known as 6601 Baltimore Avenue. I met with Congressman Ivey's staff while at MML, and they said that things are moving along very expeditiously, and they seem quite positive about the progress, and hope to have some more information in the upcoming months about that moving forward. But they were very optimistic about the status of it and some recent progress. That's really all I have. Do you have anything to add, Mr. Town Manager?
Just that Congressman Ivey's office was successful in putting it into the National Defense Authorization Act for 2025. And that has passed the House, and it has passed out of the Senate Armed Services Committee. So the language is in there. for the property to be conveyed, or that may be conveyed to the town. So I've compared that language to other conveyances, and it seems pretty standard. So it's up to the Senate now.
Up to the full Senate. So, but
Yes.
I think this is pretty low grade in terms of what they're concerned about in that bill. We
I
have to
think
see
so.
what happens to the legislation in the months ahead, though. But as I said, things are looking good right now. Okay. Any additional council questions, comments?
Mayor.
Go ahead, council member.
First off, I didn't know about the it getting out of committee, and so that's great, and super excited about that. I know we were a little early, but I do hope that we're sort of thinking about like what the marketing media, lack of a better term, like the plan in terms of like the rollout of like how, I know we mentioned sort of getting the community involved in terms of just what next steps are. I'm sure whenever it passes, it'll be a big deal. And then, I think the rush will be on to sort of like, what are the next steps? And so even if it's just like high level, thinking about what would that look like even at a higher level in terms of, what could be done immediately. And then, or if it's one of those, hey, even if we got it today, if there's still, large requests of funding to make it sort of viable or to do any of the conversions, maybe it's like excitation, and tampering. I was just recently, as an example, a group of residents were reaching out about like, we could use a community center, and people were already taking out the curtains and the carpets, right? And so I think it should be helpful to think about like what the timing on this is, and sort of like, hey, is this a 12 months, before we get 12 months to just figure out what funding sources are, or is there things that can be done in the short, long term? So just something to think about. But definitely, I was telling myself that this was still in the House. I didn't realize it had already passed that, and it was in Senate committee, and I guess out of it. So I guess our elections and our local elections are going to mean something, probably, potentially. So
Mr. Town Manager, you want to discuss the possible timing? I mean, this could be could pass as early as October. I'm not sure what the transfer time after that might be.
So I think we should manage expectations. And in doing that, I would say that even if this were to pass in October, I think you're a year out from October before maybe a year and a half before the property actually gets conveyed. Just because it's in the legislation doesn't mean that the Army is going to act immediately to convey the property to us. So I think it's going to be a relatively low priority on their list, and there's going to be lots of discussions and things for us to make sure that the conveyance documents themselves, there's going to be some back and forth between the town and the Army. The only thing that's in the Defense Authorization Act is that the Army may convey the property to the town of Riverdale Park for no consideration, and that if we don't use it for our intended purpose, it goes back to the Army. There's going to be lots of additional language to work out. So I would think you're a year, maybe a year and a half from whenever it becomes final before the property is conveyed. So let's say 18 months from October. And that will give us plenty of time to work towards securing some funding. And I would recommend that any plan that's developed, that we focus first and foremost on stormwater management. And even if it's just removing the macadam, and that's where we're going to find available funding more easily than funding on renovation of the building. So it's not something where picking out the curtains is going to be decided anytime soon, sir.
That makes perfect sense. I appreciate the update. I will keep my catalogs to myself then for the moment.
Councilmember Lingua, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Listisham, with that also in terms of as part of the conveyance, there would also be site remediation before it's transferred over, correct?
That's something that we'd have to discuss with the Army. That's not in the Defense Authorization Act.
Okay.
So
I would not.
That would be part of the conveyance process.
I would not expect that the Army is going to do much site remediation for us. It's just my expectation.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good expectation to have, I think, Mr. Mayor, because the consideration is $0. And but that's something that would be discussed during that process.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Any additional council discussion or public comments? Okay. Let's move on to new business. Are there any other items of unfinished business? I'm going to move on quickly. Let's move on to new business. Item number 1, motion regarding a curb cut request for 4701 Somerset Road. I believe one point at least, yes, we have a resident who is here. Would staff like to do the presentation of the project?
Director Barnes or Chelton, I don't know who's handling this.
Certainly. Good evening, Mayor Thompson and members of the council. Staff received a request for a curb cut from 4701 Somerset Road. And staff are seeking direction from the mayor and council regarding potential approval of that curb cut request. The town received an application from Ms. Glory Fanta, who's here with us today, for the installation of an irregular shaped driveway. So this is the curb cut that would accompany the driveway that is a little bit of an unusual shape. The project involves an increase in impervious surface, and staff have worked with the applicant and provided them with information regarding the Prince George's County Rain Check Rebate Program. And if Ryan, if you could share some of the pictures in the site plan, just so the council can see the request. Okay, so the site plan is before you now. The grayish area is the irregular shaped driveway, and it is indeed an irregular shape. When talking with Ms. Fanta, she noted that most of the houses on her street have a driveway, and that's one of the reasons why they wanted to, she wanted to install the driveway. Ms. Fanta is the new owner of this property. The property recently transferred. And as discussed, we had gone over some different options relating to rain barrels and rain gardens and some different things that could be installed to help offset the increase in impervious surface. We also shared the rain check rebate information with Ms. Fanta as well. Ms. Fanta, if I'm missing anything, would you please weigh in?
No, you are not missing anything. I've been reading the rain check rebate program, and it was very interesting. I really fell in love with the barrel one, because I've used it before. That's what I used when I was in Cameroon, and when I saw it, it just clicked. And I also like the rain garden. I think those are the two things I would really consider doing in that property when I do the driveway.
Have you considered, Ms. Fanta, have you considered doing a permeable driveway, either permeable pavement or permeable pavers, which have a way that the water can get through to the ground beneath?
I saw it. I didn't consider that until when I started looking at the different options, but that will not be a problem.
Okay, because I think, you know, the council, after some more than one 100-year plus flood in the area and lots of houses being flooded, has been trying to minimize the addition of impervious surfaces in the town to the extent possible. And so you just heard the discussion about the stormwater management for the park that's just a few blocks north of your, well, actually 1.5 blocks north of your home. And there's a similar concern for every driveway that goes in. And this is, it's it's relatively large driveway, but it's if it could be made with permeable pavers or permeable pavement, then that would be ideal. And I'm pretty sure the rain check program would help you with that. And if you like the rain garden and the rain barrels, then that also I think the rain check program can help you with.
So but the permit that I got from the county, I don't think that is what was there. It was concrete, so I don't know how that affects that.
So the county gave you a permit for a concrete driveway.
Yeah, and then they asked me to come to the city to get the apron.
Okay. I don't have an answer for that. And your council member, as I said at the near the beginning of the meeting, is not here this evening, Aaron Foe. And so I don't know how he would, what motion he would like to make on this. Other members of the council, do you have thoughts? Very quiet, council members. Councilmember Yang, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear sort of, interest in the rain gardens and barrels and that program. And glad that you're able to get, awareness of it. And hearing your willingness to sort of do pavers or some type of sort of alternative to just concrete is good to hear. I do wonder about the like timing wise in terms of is there hopefully there's a point person from the county that could be maybe reached out to and see if the permit would cover other things just besides concrete, or we sort of locked into that process right now. I think we should explore that to see if at all possible, and maybe even say that as part of the process of getting the apron, it was discussed, and what leeway do we have here, especially if the resident is already willing to do it, then I think it'd be worth sort of exploring if at all possible.
So you would ask that staff assist the resident with working with the county to see if that permit could be amended easily, the driveway permit. I'm thinking at this point, first of all, I'm thinking of talking to Councilmember Olson about the fact that the county was not pushing permeable surfaces. But I would think that if the resident is willing to make a commitment to install a rain garden and barrels to offset the paved area, that would be an acceptable path forward. But I don't get to vote usually, so that's up to the rest of the council. And someone will need to make a motion if we're going to issue the curb cut permit this evening to do that.
And if I might talk, Mr. Mayor, because when I drove in the neighborhood and then I looked at the existing driveways, almost all of them were concrete. So that is why I made the design to be concrete. And then when I came to the city and they gave me information about the rain checks, I decided that, okay, if I get the concrete driveway, in addition to that, to take care of the rainwater, I'm gonna do the garden, and I'm gonna do the rain garden and the barrel. So I was thinking that based on that information, you know, my project should be considered.
I understand. And so I think it's up to the council at this point. So council members, thoughts?
I'm in support of that. I'm looking on Google Maps now, and it's, you know, she's correct in terms of like all the other driveways are concrete. And so if she has that commitment, I'm in favor of it.
Likewise.
Is someone ready to make a motion to approve the curb cut request for 4701 Somerset Road with the understanding that the resident is making a commitment to install a rain garden to offset the additional impermeable surface?
Hey, motion.
Motion by Councilmember Callan,
Second.
second by Councilmember Inyang. Is there any discussion of the motion by the council? Councilmember Lingua, your microphone is unmuted. Do you want to say something?
Comment.
Okay. If there's no council discussion, are there any public comments? Okay, I have no comments. I will do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang,
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia,
Aye.
Councilmember Callan,
Aye.
and I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. Ms. Fonta, I'm actually your neighbor. I live about a block away, so I'll try to swing by and say hello to you sometime in the next few weeks. But
Thank you. I'm so happy.
we will be the town. Please reach out to town staff about issuing the permit for the curb cut.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Of course. Have a good evening.
You too.
Okay.
Good night, Fanta.
So we have a item number 1.5 under new business. Councilmember Lingua, go ahead. You're muted, Councilmember.
Sorry about that. I was muted. I thought I'd hit it and I thought it came off. Attached is a draft letter that was asked of by MNC PPC. For the town to acknowledge that we have some residents who will be working in coordination with MNC PPC, conservation specialist Antonia Bookbinder and park ranger Chris Barrett on a project over at Riverside Neighborhood Park to remove invasives so as to establish a new meadow, as well as to rejuvenate the forest habitat that was started several years ago as part of a council of governments project. Letter just essentially goes on to discuss about town's appreciation towards establishing native habitats through various initiatives in town, in conjunction with working with the Green Team. Some of the members involved, as named, Eleanor Hancock, David Rupert, and Daniel McDonald, were interested in working with MNC PPC at the location over at Riverside Neighborhood Park, and reached out to talk to them about it. Mr. Rupert has been for about the past 3 years, been coming over on his own initiative with some others, be it family or other folks, to remove some of the invasive growth and is seeing positive results from the effort. And essentially, I think part of what this letter is conveying is that a hope that Park and Planning takes advantage of the experiences that Mr. Rupert, Ms. Hancock, and Mr. McDonald had on this location and incorporates it into their plan as well.
Mr. Mayor, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Your proposal is to have the, don't have a motion yet, but your proposal is to have the town support a letter and write a letter in support of these, coordinating the efforts of these residents with MNC PPC.
That is
Towards,
correct.
okay.
And
Is
before you is a draft letter to make life easy for staff.
Okay. Is there any council discussion that is needed before a motion can be made? Now that the idea has been introduced. You want to make a motion, Councilmember Lingua?
I'd like to make a motion to direct the mayor and town staff to send a letter to Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission in support of a resident coordination with MNC PPC, Conservation Specialist Antonio Bookbinder, and Park Ranger Chris Barrett.
Is there a second to the
Or-
motion?
Okay, yep. I think it's fine.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Lingua, seconded by Councilmember Enyang. Is there council discussion of the motion?
I've pretty much explained what it is that they're looking to do. This is mainly something that Park and Planning asked that the town supply. I think it's part of an effort. From my understanding is, speaking with Ms. Hancock and Mr. McDonald, is Park and Planning is making more of a concerted effort to reaching out to communities when they're doing projects, when they're looking to enter into projects on parkland that's within a community as this project is. And we have
Okay.
3 folks here who are very keen on seeing something happen. And I think also being the fact that we have a right-of-way adjacent to this really affords us opportunities in the future.
Okay, any council questions or comments? So I just have a few questions. So
Sure.
the 3 residents have already been in contact with the conservation specialists and park ranger mentioned in the first paragraph.
Yes, they have.
And MNC PPC is generally supportive of this, it sounds like. And they just want a letter saying that we're okay with it. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I'm a little bit, I actually rode my bike past the forested area, let's call it that, coming back from the sculpture unveiling.
Mhm.
And was noting that the trees really had grown up over the many years that it's been in place.
Yep.
And so the residents have found that there are a lot of invasives growing in there as well as the trees. Or
Yes.
and so they'd like to do something better. So can you help me understand the meadow? I don't understand that. Is there a proposal to plant more trees, or is there an area that is covered with scrub or invasives to turn into a meadow?
Yeah, my understanding when you're saying you rode back, you're along the hiker biker, you're along the trail on the levee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, when you come around to the other side, there's kind of a bowl. What I think you were saying was an outer arc from the east side. On the north and west side, there is more like a bowl shape over there that comes down to where the grasses are, where the lawn is. And that is has a extensive amount of porcelain berry.
Okay.
And it's to a point, because it's so open, the porcelain berry and the amount of sun it gets just takes off and just starts enveloping everything, which makes it harder for some of the other plants and the trees even to really be able to grow. So the idea is
Clear out the porcelain berry.
Yeah, well, not fully. You can just some of it there. So essentially, it's not as active, and it's when it gets under a shade, it'll still grow, but it won't grow as quickly. And essentially, what they're looking to do is be able to provide a habitat that is more conducive to smaller wildlife, small insect populations, pollinator populations. That has more of a balance to it than what's currently there now.
Okay, but is the idea, or this may not be the right place to ask it, but is the idea that the grassy area will expand, or that the forest will expand, or that there will still be some transition zone, and that
Oh, there's still going to be some transition, but for right now, what they just want to do is just really make more of an accelerated effort to address porcelain berry.
Okay, that answers that question. Staff, does staff have any concerns about writing this letter? Mr. Town Manager?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I had to step away for a moment. I don't have any concerns about the concept or the letter.
Okay, very good. Okay, any additional council or public discussion of the motion? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang,
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia,
Aye.
Councilmember Callan.
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Are there additional items of new business before we have a motion to move into closed meeting? I don't see any microphones unmuting or hands going up. I'm just going to mention two things before we go into closed session. The first is that MNC PPC has their budget hearing, including their capital budget hearing, in late September, early October. And we always seem to have a bit of a rush to put our projects in, proposed projects for their budget consideration. And so people should think about that over the next several weeks and see if we can generate a list. And the second is that, as Councilmember Inyang mentioned, there are a few automated traffic control issues that are currently in the county that came up in discussions with Councilmember Eric Olson. The first of them is the truck height restriction, automated enforcement of truck height restriction in Riverdale Park Station. And the second are the stop sign cameras. And it may be that at the special legislative that comes up in 3 or 4 weeks, that we would like to send a letter to Councilmember Olson asking that the county develop processes to unstick these and move forward on that state legislation that's been passed. So just wanted to mention those two items. I don't think we need to discuss them any further unless people want to. It's looking awfully quiet. Okay, let me pull up the closed meeting form. So we have a need to go into closed meeting to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, or any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. And so we can't have this discussion in open meeting, and so I need to have a motion to close the meeting. And I'm going to be taking notes very carefully about the time that we do this. So please don't expect this to move too quickly as we move into closed meeting. Councilmember Smith.
Motion to go into closed session.
Okay,
Second,
who made the second?
Councilmember Ian.
Thank you, Councilmember. And is there any discussion on the motion to go into closed meeting? Are there any public comments? Okay, I'm going to do a roll call vote. All those well, just Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Foe is absent. Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang,
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia,
Aye.
Councilmember Callan.
Aye.
Okay, no one is opposed. I am abstaining. And as stated, Foe is absent. The motion passes 5-0, and we will be going into closed meeting.